All right, Nuggets fans, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll. Brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network. I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, Serbia losing in EuroBasket, unfortunately, over the weekend. Obviously, that happened on Saturday. There was a part of me that wanted to podcast on Saturday, but things got a little bit too busy. I decided against it. So here we are recording on Tuesday night, or not Tuesday night, Monday night for Tuesday morning. I will also be uploading on Thursday and Saturday going forward for the rest of September. So you'll get that for another 3 weeks or so. And then October's going to hit, and we're going to get into 4 podcasts a week on Pickaxe and Roll some point in the very near future. Back into full swing. Very excited for it as we sort of ramp up here on the Nuggets coverage and things get very serious very quickly. Also, I have started to do some more writing and get back into the swing of things there. I'm doing a series this week. On Monday, released a 15th man kind of roster preseason profile kind of thing. The Nuggets are probably not going to fill their 15th man spot before opening night. There's at least a possibility that they do, but I don't expect them to. I wrote about why on milehighsports.com. Also, I wrote about Hunter Tyson on Tuesday when you will probably listen to this podcast. So that is all scheduled and ready to go. We're going to go in reverse order from 15 to 1 in my roster spot kind of rankings for Denver. So Nikola Jokic will be at the end right before Media Day on September 29th. Wild how quickly things can move. Hasn't felt that quick over the course of the entire offseason, but you get to the end and you realize, oh wow, we've got some content to have to record. So there's a lot to do. Very excited to do it. And we're getting back into the swing of things, folks. It's going to be very fun. Like I said, on today's episode, we're going to talk about Jokic and Serbia getting eliminated. I wanted to share, and like the thumbnail for this episode probably got you to click if you're on YouTube. I'm going to talk about why, like, kind of fatal flaws for Jokic teams. And one of the things that the Nuggets have to watch out for heading into 2025-26. I'm also going to talk about why Jokic teams succeed. And then we're going to talk about if the Nuggets have enough defense to get into the championship conversation, which they already are. The question, though, kind of like in 2023, will that be good enough when the going gets tough? And have to discuss that for sure. Okay, let's get into it. Over the weekend, Serbia lost to Finland, who was not expected to be a major power in the overall bracket for EuroBasket, but with Larry Markkinen and a much more versatile, impressive group from Finland than I think you would be expecting. Like their role players basically hit all the important shots. Elias Valtonen, Mikhail Yantonen. there's a lot of tough names. Miro Little's a short point guard that they have who was pretty solid. And then the 18-year-old that they have who's got a lot of attitude, Mika Murinen. He's going to be a lottery pick in all likelihood either next year or the year after that. But this Finnish team, very impressive overall, and the Serbian team, not impressive. And there are a bunch of reasons beyond Jokic as to why Serbia ended up losing. Jokic, for all intents and purposes, was fantastic offensively. Like, there's no question as to what he was able to do on a consistent basis. 33 points on 13 shots, 9 of 13 from the field, 8 of 11 from 2, 1 of 2 from 3, 14 of 19 from the free throw line. Probably needed to make a couple more free throws. We've seen that before in high pressure, high intensity games like this where he misses a couple extra free throws that you wouldn't expect him to miss. Only 8 rebounds, only 4 defensive rebounds for Jokic. That was a big story. Finland was able to get on the offensive glass. Jokic looked dog tired out there. Only 3 assists compared to 2 turnovers for Jokic as well, and he was -7 in the game. Obviously, wasn't his fault entirely. Marko Guduric shot 1 of 8 from 3. The Serbian team as a whole, like Dobric shot 1 of 6. Jovic shot 4 of 9. Nikola Jovic, he played reasonably well, but also there was a lot of detail things that I just didn't like from him, including the defensive side. Filip Petrusev was just useless out there. And there are just a lot of guys and a lot of decisions that I didn't like from the Serbian side, where they didn't play like a team that should be the favorite. They did not play like a connected team, a team that had aspirations to get to the end. It almost looked like they were waiting to lose with the way that they were playing. And that's me projecting from halfway across the world. So I don't want to sit here and say like I know everything, because I don't, obviously. But just the way that they were playing and the way that they were giving up these offensive rebounds. I think they gave up like over 20. That's just inexcusable in a game that's 40 minutes long. Like you have to be better and more precise and more consistent as a team. And like these details obviously matter. Bogdanovic went out. He was the captain of the team for a reason. He keeps them connected in ways that Jokic has struggled to. And then the talent in the backcourt really struggled. But to me, it wasn't even just the talent in the backcourt. The front court talent was pretty weak. Petrusev was horrible. Milutinov was horrible in that game. And without Tristan Vukcevic, who was injured, there's just not a lot of capability. And Vasa Micic was pretty good in the first half, really struggled in the second half. And there just wasn't enough talent. There wasn't enough capability in order to get the job done. But more than anything, like they gave up 92 points in 40 minutes. It's just not good enough defense. It just wasn't. And Finland wasn't talented enough for them to make that happen, but they ended up making it happen anyway because they out-hustled. They made the important shots. And there were a lot of shots down the stretch of that game that Jokic was the primary offender on the defensive end. He was not closing out consistently enough. His guy, he would dare sometimes to make a three because he didn't want to get out to the perimeter. And the player laced it because he gave them an open three. And to me, it just like, I know that this is coming from me. It's not like I understand people's frustration if I'm the one saying this, but he just looks big. He just looks out of shape. And I do not think that he gets enough, like certainly in this moment, and certainly because he's the best player in the world. Like over at Locked On, we voted him the best player in the world for a reason. And I don't think it's close. I think he's in a tier by himself. But if there was one weakness in his game, if there was something that you could really point to and say, yeah, that is problematic, not just a reason why teams and players have success against him, but also could potentially be a fatal flaw, it is right now his inability to keep up on the perimeter against other offensive players. When he's on the defensive end, he just doesn't keep up. And it's something that, like a lot of, and this is when he's at his best, when he's in shape, when he's locked in, this is not as much of an issue. He's moved better in the past. I really do think that this is a post 2023, more post 2024 kind of issue where he just has put on a fair amount of weight. He looks bigger. He's carrying more weight. He's able to throw it around a little bit better. It keeps him healthy. It keeps him in the game and able to deal with the physicality that the NBA provides when other teams and other players are allowed to hack him on a consistent basis on the other end of the floor. It allows him to throw around his body and just take advantage of the opposing team that can't keep up with his size. But where that falls short and where a modern NBA center on defense is asked to do more, the Nuggets have so many guys that they need to go and like cover for his weaknesses on the defensive end. And those are closing out and covering various amounts of space. Because while Jokic's hands are incredible, and they are, you can't just play defense with your hands. You have to play defense with your feet. And it's funny because Jokic back in 2023, I think it was 2023. I think it was that particular year. Committed several kicked ball violations throughout the season. He was by far the player that committed the most kicked ball violations. That's actually gone down in recent years. I wonder if he got a notice from the NBA. So they're saying like, "Hey, don't do that. Like it's not reasonable." But the numbers year over year are way lower than they used to be. When Jokic is at his best defensively, it is because he's moving his feet really well. He gets to take advantage of his defensive hands when his feet are actually moving his body and putting him into better position to make those plays. And in this game over the weekend against Finland, he didn't really do that. There are a lot of rebounds that he didn't get because he wasn't in position. He didn't move his feet to go get the ball. Sometimes the ball would bounce over his head. It would careen off the side of the rim. Not all of them were ones that he could get if he was 20 pounds lighter or anything. Like, I'm not trying to say that. But maybe one extra one, two extra ones, like 2 extra rebounds would be a really big deal. And so I think if there was a reason why the Nuggets, and because we're going to connect it back here, if there was a reason why the Nuggets themselves would really struggle in various games and various losses, it's because opposing ball handlers can get downhill against Jokic. If they are in middle pick and roll, they could get a two-way go and get to space at the rim. That wasn't the issue against Finland, though. Finland wasn't really having that. It was the pick and pop 5. It was the kick out 5. It was the one where Jokic has to get back out to the perimeter, or they're switching and he's in a situation where he's covering a 3 or covering a 2 or covering a 4. And he has to cover a smaller player on the perimeter and he gives them too much space. And then they shoot the 3 over him. That happens a lot in the NBA too. And if he continues to give this much space in games that matter in the NBA, Denver's going to really struggle. They're really going to struggle to guard defensively with him out there. People don't want to hear that. Like, he is not a perfect basketball player. He might be a perfect offensive player. There's no question in my mind that, like, what he can do offensively, he carries so much of the burden for a flawed team, for a team that was just like really bad in their decision making around him. He made up for a lot of that on the offensive end. But defensively, he's going to have to carry his weight too. And honestly, I think it might come from dropping some pounds. And maybe this is just a summer thing. Maybe he'll be in better shape heading into January, February, March as the NBA season really locks in. But I do think that if there is a weakness in Jokic's game defensively, people want to talk about the rim protection. I don't care about that as much. Like, that is going to be a thing no matter what, because he's not a leaper. That's fine. But he does a good job of cutting off driving lanes at the rim and forcing guys to take 7-foot shots as opposed to 3-foot shots. The big issue is if he gives too much space willingly on a consistent basis or just doesn't close out. And if he never does, that could be a problem that haunts Denver heading into the regular season and then into the playoffs for not just this year, but the rest of Jokic's prime. Like, it is something that he's going to have to really fully commit to as the NBA gets faster and faster and faster. Jokic shouldn't go the other way. I understand the allure to try to go the other way. He should be adapting. He should pull a Marc Gasol, try to get lighter as his career goes on so that he can keep up and play defensively for as long as possible. If you're still interested in the EuroBasket scene, according to FanDuel, Germany's now the favorite at -155. Turkey is now +300 as the second favorite in the entire tournament. Greece plus 480 with Giannis, who looks unbelievable in this particular environment. He is a guy who looks like he's on a warpath. So I wonder what it looks like and whether I threw some dollars on a Giannis MVP. I think that there's a shot that like the way that he looks right now, there's a shot that he just goes gangbusters. Milwaukee wins enough games to get into the playoffs and like be a surprise. And Giannis is the entire reason for that. I wouldn't be a surprise at all. So, okay, we're going to be more positive on the other side. When we come back, we're going to talk about Nikola Jokic and company. What does it look like when they succeed as opposed to when they fail? What does it look like when Jokic is at his best, when things are going well? What does Jokic look like in those situations? And then we're going to talk about David Adelman a little bit and the Nuggets defense. We'll talk about that on the other side here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. I don't like criticizing Jokic because like everybody understands, everybody in Denver understands the deal. Like he effectively has helped me earn a career by being the kind of basketball player that he is. And like, would I be covering the Nuggets even without Jokic? Yeah, probably. Would it be as successful? Who knows? Like Jokic, of course, is so much of the reason why any of us has an opportunity to talk about this sport the way that we do. And so I do understand that and I do appreciate that. But he's also a human being. He is not he's still a person. And he's still a player that has strengths and has weaknesses. So have to be able to talk about him honestly as much as we can. Okay. What do the Nuggets look like? And we're going to transition fully into the Nuggets here. What do the Nuggets look like when Jokic and co are succeeding? Like, what does that actual visual look like? What are the mechanisms that help Denver the most when they are winning? I think about the 2023 run. I think about the winning playoff games where Denver beats the Lakers in the playoffs or gets past the LA Clippers in the playoffs, what it looked like for the 2023 run. And then when they're at their best in the regular season, what do those games look like? What do they feel like? The first thing I think about, role players are just spacing the floor so well. So often, when the Nuggets are at their best, it is very dependent on the variance that comes when guys are in a shooting slump, guys are in a shooting burst, guys are they're in a really good place or they're on a hot streak, and if the ball gets kicked out to Aaron Gordon 6 times and he goes 4 of 6 from 3, usually the Nuggets are going to win that game. If the Nuggets are going to if they're going to score 130 points, a lot of those times it's because Christian Brown is spacing the floor. He's running in transition. He is back cutting like crazy. And the Nuggets are shooting an efficient brand of basketball because the role players are in the right spots. They are positioned around the lane, around the three-point line to make sure that when Jokic and Murray and guys have to do primary actions in the middle of the floor, that it's not a crowded floor. The last thing you want is to have to deal with a crowded floor as often as the Nuggets did last year. They were still second in offense, despite the fact that they probably had the most crowded lane of any team in the NBA. Like, that wouldn't surprise me. Murray shot the ball well from outside. Michael Porter shot 40% from 3. Nikola Jokic was one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. It did not matter. Like, even Aaron Gordon had a great three-point shooting season. It did not matter because teams just were continuing to dare those guys and everybody else around them to hit threes. So what does it look like when the Nuggets are succeeding? It's when those guys are hitting the dare shots. It's when those guys are hitting the threes, taking advantage of that space. You want to pull the defense away from the rim. And that is when Denver's at their best. Also, when Denver's at their best is when the defense is just connected and aggressive. It is not just making the correct rotations. It is not just talking, communicating, and executing the coverages, whether it's a 2-3 zone or they're trapping at the top of the key or they're rotating over from the backside, things like that. It is when they are aggressive, when they're looking to make plays. There's a palpable difference between when the Nuggets would go through the motions on the defensive end, execute the scheme, and then the opposing team just made the extra pass. They kept going and kept going and kept going. Denver never really put pressure on them defensively, and the opposing team eventually found a solution late in the shot clock or the backbreaker. Denver does all the good things well, gives up the offensive rebound, kick out 3 bucket. Like, those hurt. That's how you lower your defensive rating, because you don't finish the possession. Denver, when they are at their best, is not even letting it get to that point. Think about what Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was doing, jumping passing lanes, getting out in transition, turning possessions that would get a shot into possessions on defense where there's no shot that goes up. You're just going the other direction. One of the problems that the Nuggets have, and I can do this right now just to look at the actual stats from last year. My recollection is that the Nuggets did not generate enough steals, so that they did not generate enough turnovers from the opposing team. If you go to NBA.com and you look at opponent turnover rate, the Nuggets were bottom 4 in forcing opposing turnovers. The other teams, the Utah Jazz, the Chicago Bulls, the Phoenix Suns. And then they're tied with the Milwaukee Bucks, who, by their very soul, play a very conservative defensive scheme for the most part with Brook Lopez. They played it with Brook Lopez, with Giannis, and they try to keep everything in front of them. They do a good job of walling up, but they don't foul. That's what they intend to do. And the Nuggets did a reasonable job of that as well, but they also, unlike Milwaukee, gave up a little bit more efficiency on the opposing team shots, and they gave up more offensive rebounds. Denver as a team was about average in opponents' offensive rebounding rate, but they were bottom 5 in opponent turnovers. They were bottom 5, or like in the good direction in opponent free throw rate, which is good, but they weren't impactful on the defensive end. They weren't getting into the opposing team's chili as often as they really needed to. And I'm going to continue with that point a little bit later, because I do think it's still a concern. Think about the players that the Nuggets added. Well, they added Cam Johnson, who's not a good defender. They added Jonas Valanciunas, who is not a good defender. They added Tim Hardaway Jr., who is not a good defender. And they added Bruce Brown, who is a solid defender. I wouldn't call him spectacular, but he's solid. But he's replacing Russell Westbrook, who was a solid defender, and also one of the only guys that would really make those defensive plays. So Denver's in a little bit of a pickle here. Like, they're at their best when they are forcing the opposing team to make mistakes. They are forcing the opposing team to get out of rhythm because of how connected and aggressive they are defensively. But are they going to be able to do that in the regular season? Probably not. The final thing, like, what does it look like when Nikola Jokic and company succeed out there? It's Jamal Murray taking pressure off of Jokic as a creator, where Jamal Murray, and good for him, by the way, he was, over the weekend, he posted some things about being in Jamaica, in Montego Bay, I'm pretty sure it was, putting on a basketball camp for the Jamaican people and some Jamaican kids. Super cool opportunity for him. I shared some of it on social media and think that it's a great thing. Like, it's a fantastic thing that he's got for him. And so he looks like he's in pretty good shape as well. He's been at the Rico Hines runs with the Nuggets. This seems like a pretty short vacation for him, but Nice, well earned before really getting back into the swing of things in September. I think that Murray, do I want to say this? Is is Murray in line for his best season of his career? Is he in line for it? You think about it. Well, regular season wise, he's never really been remarkable before. I think he's peaked at about 21.7 points per game, somewhere around there, 21 and a half, that general vicinity. He's only peaked at about 6.5 assists per game. Part of that is because, so the peak actually was this past year, 21.4 points per game, but it was on 36.1 minutes per game. It was too many minutes. He did shoot reasonably well. Not his most efficient shooting from 2-point range that he's ever had, but it's not that far off. It was a pretty efficient year in retrospect. The way that it started was not good, but it turned out to be a very good season for him. And wasn't perfect in a playoff environment, and he did have to give up some usage and assist rate to Russell Westbrook while he was here. He'll take that back on in this coming season. I think the numbers are going to look pretty impressive. I think he's in line for a pretty good year. Will it be a career year? I don't know, but he will be solid. He's a guy that I don't have a lot of concerns over what you're going to get from him in his age 28 season. Like, he's just, we know who he is at this point. He's probably going to be about 21-6, and it's going to be pretty good. I'm looking forward to it. But when he's at his best is when that 21-6 goes to 30-6 or 21-8 or 20-12 or somewhere in that general range. He doesn't have that many of those games that often. And a lot of it is by design. People don't really fully appreciate this, but it is by design a lot of the time when Murray is not taking on many of these possessions because the offense goes through Jokic. Like, that is the consistent thing. If you saw Jokic's numbers go down and it was because Murray was taking on more possessions and the Nuggets offensive rating was the same, there would be a lot of people that would be upset about that because they really just care about Jokic's numbers, despite the fact that the result is actually the same and the offense is still amazing. The offense when Jokic and Murray are out there, tremendous. I'm looking forward to seeing if they can continue to push that higher, but where Jokic needs Murray the most is in the playoffs. Murray was good, not great in the playoffs this past year. He was better than people remember, probably not as good as he needed to be in order for Denver to win a title, especially in that Game 7 against OKC. I'm looking forward to seeing whether he can bounce back from it. We'll see what happens. But that's what Denver looks like when they're at their best, right? It's what it looks like. The one that I have the most questions about, it's not the role players spacing the floor well. I think that this team is the most, what's the word I'm looking for? It's got the best opportunity for Jokic to be optimized. It's the most optimized Jokic group that we have ever had in Denver. And a lot of that is just based off of the role players being in good places. And you've got Cam Johnson and Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown. And you've got a lot of guys that are going to benefit a ton from Jokic's presence, from Murray being a great second option, and yada, yada, yada. I believe that Murray will be good enough as a secondary creator for Denver to win a title. Will he be perfect? No. But could he be a top 30 player? And is that enough to win a title? Sure. We already saw it. The question is the defense. And my last sort of point here, do the Nuggets have enough defenders to kind of keep the pressure off of them? Because this past season, they were second in offense. I think they were 21st in defense or so. Subpar. Needed to be better. I think a lot of that is going to naturally improve just because of the personnel that they have, because like simply having a guy like Jonas Valanciunas out there instead of DeAndre Jordan or Zeke Naji, while Jonas is not a better individual defender than those guys, one of the things that he's going to do, he's going to be a good defensive rebounder. He's going to be out there. The Nuggets offense is going to be better when he's out there, which means that their half court, like they're going to be defending in the half court more consistently than they would have before. That matters. And so it's marginal, but it is like, could it save Denver half a point in defensive rating? Maybe. Is Cam Johnson a better defender than Michael Porter? He's better in some areas, worse than others. If Denver's as connected as they needed to be, I think one thing is about belief. It's one of the reasons why I think Denver's going to be better defensively this season in the regular season. It's just going to be hard for them to be 21st again. Like, if they actually care, if they actually have some serious belief here, if they want to hold themselves to championship caliber expectations, they will not finish 21st in defensive rating. End of story. If they do that again, I won't pick them to win the title. Like, it won't happen. They'll have to prove me wrong in order to, or there has to be a seriously good reason for why it happened, like a major injury to somebody, or like they got super unlucky from a shooting perspective. Teams just shot the lights out the ball, things like that. I don't know. But do they have enough defenders? It's one of the reasons why I think Peyton Watson is going to play a significant role. People are talking about all of the guys that Denver brought in. Bruce Brown, I think, will be the sixth man. Peyton Watson, I think, is going to be the seventh man. I think you're going to want his defensive presence out there as somebody that can kind of provide a little change of pace for somebody like Cam Johnson, who's more of the offensive variant. Peyton Watson could be your defensive guy. It allows you to give Aaron Gordon a little bit of rest. Maybe you're playing a little bit bigger. Peyton Watson at the 3, Deron Holmes at the 4, or Zeke Naji at the 4, and Jonas Valanciunas at the 5. In theory, that lineup should be better defensively than a Julian Strawther at the 3, Peyton Watson at the 4, DeAndre Jordan at the 5 kind of look, which is something that we saw not on a consistent basis, but consistently enough. So I think that there's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity for Denver to be better. Will it actually happen? We'll see. I don't think that they have good enough defensive personnel to really crack like the top 12. But should they be 50, like 15th? Yeah, sounds about right. According to FanDuel, by the way, the last guy I want to talk about is David Adelman. According to FanDuel, he is plus 1,000 to win Coach of the Year. That's like third or fourth in Coach of the Year odds, behind Jamal Mosley at plus 550. It's really tough to predict Coach of the Year sometimes. By the way, my favorite odds on that particular line, Eric Spoelstra's at plus 2,700. He is a guy that has never won Coach of the Year, but he's consistently credited as one of the best coaches in the world. Maybe one of the, I think he's on the, when they did the 75th anniversary team, he was one of the 16 best coaches ever listed on there. So I wonder if there's an opportunity for them to vote him in plus 2,700 and give him a Coach of the Year if Miami surprises and is a top 6 team in the East, which, would you be really surprised if that happened? I wouldn't. But the reason why I bring this up, it's kind of tangential. David Adelman has a heavy burden for the Nuggets this year. First season as a full-time head coach. Obviously, he's been around the organization for a while. Last 3 games of the regular season and then into the playoffs are his only head coaching experience, other than some times where he stepped up for Michael Malone when he had a rare absence during the year. I think that David Adelman, if he can get the team motivated to try hard on the defensive end, to do the right things on the defensive end, to be motivated in the regular season in some way, shape, or form, that's how I know the year is going to be great. Because you don't need to fly around all the time. That's not how Denver's going to be wired. But you have to be able to pick and choose moments throughout the year, serious moments, serious stretches, where you find an opportunity to lock in, to do your job, to show that you can run specific coverages, to shut down an opposing team, match up with a specific player, and execute the coverage, execute what you're supposed to do. If they can show that during the regular season, I would vote Adelman Coach of the Year, because I think Denver at that point wins 58 to 60 games. The offense is going to be what the offense is. Like, they could be the best offense in the NBA. I actually think they've got a pretty good chance to do that. Whether it actually happens or not remains to be seen, but like, if they could just get to a place where Adelman is motivating them enough defensively to get stuff done. And this is a Jokic thing too. Jokic has to lead by example in this case, where he's got to really move his feet, close out to the corners, do the things on the perimeter that he needs to do, and then not give up on plays. If he can do that and be the person in the middle that the Nuggets need him to be, Denver can be a top 15, top 12 defense. They can be. And then that really, you start to really have a conversation about, is Denver going to be the first seed in the Western Conference? That would be a crazy conversation to have, especially with where OKC is right now. So, look, we'll see what happens. I think that there's a lot to go on here, and there's a lot of questions still to answer. We've got plenty of time. I'm curious to get David Adelman's thoughts on the defense and what he's expecting to do, what he wants specific goals to be, how you can get back to caring about it on a consistent basis. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Was I too hard on Jokic? Was I too hard on Serbia? Was I not a good enough fan for everybody here? Let me know down in the comments below, or when I post this on Twitter. Let me know how you feel. Sorry if I was a little bit too negative, but for now, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. I will be back on Thursday, hoping to have a special guest for that one. We will see whether I can make that happen or not. But going to get back into the swing of things, folks. It's very close, and we're going to get 3 episodes this week. I will commit to that for sure. Thank you so much. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I will talk to you guys very soon.